The Second World War thundered across Europe in a language of steel and fire. But in the occupied cities of the East, a far colder, more methodical war raged. It was a bureaucratic terror, fought with forms, lists, and rubber stamps. The Nazi regime murdered using ink. Their ultimate weapon was the Kennkarten, the identity document that for millions in Poland was the only thin sheet of paper separating them from a grave. To exist outside the Reich's meticulous ledger was instant death. In the shadows of this paper empire, a small group of women dared to fight the entire German state using its own tools. They were the forgers of the Polish underground, and their weapon was the perfect lie. Our story begins in Warsaw, 1943. The air in the hidden cellar office is thick. It smells of damp earth, burning oil from a small lamp, and the sharp, volatile scent of chemical developers. This is the heart of Żegota, the Council for Aid to Jews, the secret factory dedicated to manufacturing salvation. Our subject is Helena. In another life, she was an archivist in Krakow, a specialist in historical documents and perfect script. Now, her hands, steady and precise, are dedicated to the highest form of treason, the perfect lie. She is not a saboteur, she is a forger. Her workspace is a testament to the new reality. Tools of survival include not a rifle, but a jeweler's loop, thin-bladed scalpels, and dozens of tiny glass bottles filled with highly specialized inks. The Reich demands truth. It demands proof. But its truth is a vast, complicated machine of pure German order. To break it, you cannot use chaos. You must use a superior order. The average life expectancy of a Jew living under a false identity without the correct papers was measured in days. Helena's work provided the single most vital piece of armor, the Kennkarten. In an hour, I can forge 30 identity documents. If I sleep for 60 minutes, 30 people will die. That is the arithmetic of the underground. I have no time for doubt. I have only time for precision. She lifts a thin sheet of official-looking paper to the light. It has been meticulously sourced, or in some cases, created from scratch, to match the weight, watermark, and subtle texture used by the German general government. The stakes were absolute. The Gestapo and the Kripo, criminal police, were trained to spot the smallest imperfection. An error in the shade of ink, a missing security perforation, or a too new appearance on a document supposedly issued 3 years ago, all were instant death sentences for the bearer. I must know how a clerk in the Krakow registry stamped his papers in 1941. I must know the size of the official seal used in Warsaw in 1943. The Gestapo knows these things. They are artists of detail. She mixes a small dish of ink, adding a tiny drop of a clear chemical solution to slightly dull the color, mimicking the cheaper, standard-issue ink used in official offices. The pen in her hand is steady. She begins copying a signature, a fictional priest's name on a false baptismal certificate, or a bureaucratic stamp of an SS labor office. Her hand is flawless. She writes with the detached neutrality of a machine, transforming Maria Louis into Maria Kowalska. The scratch of the pen nib is followed by the soft, deliberate thump of a small, improvised stamp. The authority of the Reich is held entirely in the raised copper lines of the official seal, the eagle, the swastika, the intricate lettering. She takes an improvised stamp, etched onto a piece of salvaged metal with acid, and carefully applies the ink. She presses it to the paper with a calculated, cold force. The impression is perfect. But a perfect document is a new document, and new documents scream suspicion. Helena must now commit the ultimate act of forgery. She must ruin her creation. A real document, carried for years by a working person, must show the scars of life. If it is too clean, it means the person is hiding it, and that means fear. Fear kills. She takes a piece of fine-grade sandpaper and gently, almost lovingly, wears down the edges of the card. She then carefully smears a trace of dirt, a mix of soot and actual Warsaw street grime, around the edges, where fingers would naturally touch the paper over time. This is the shame of my work. The document must look loved, handled, almost destroyed. This dirt is its truth. If my lie is perfect, it becomes invisible. She takes a tiny, rusty safety pin and carefully punctures the document where a hole punch would be, mimicking the haphazard, violent efficiency of a German processing clerk. She picks up her sewing machine, an old, heavy Singer model. This machine is not for mending clothes. She uses the needle, running without thread, to create the minuscule perforations required on official postal stamps and tax permits. The unnerving, repetitive, low sound of the needle punching the paper is the sound of quiet revolution, a sound that, if discovered, would guarantee torture and execution. This sound is life. This sound is a lie so good it gives a woman a name, a home, a chance to see tomorrow. She holds the finished Kennkarten. It carries the false name Janina Truszczynska and the fictional life of a Polish Catholic woman. The subtle smell of the chemicals, the touch of the aged paper, it is the signature of her courage. Her work for the day is complete. She has created safe passage for perhaps 22 people, including those who would live under aliases like Kazimierz Hutecki and Janina Truszczynska. She carefully folds the documents and slips them into a small, hollowed-out compartment hidden in the bottom of a basket. She covers them with a loaf of stale, black bread and 2 bruised apples. Helena now sheds the role of the architect of the lie and assumes the role of the courier. She puts on a worn, drab coat and a peasant's headscarf. She opens the cellar door, which leads to a dark, rain-slicked alley. She knows the route. 3 German checkpoints, an hour of walking through streets patrolled by the Gestapo. The papers are ready. Now I must become ready. They will look at the loaf, the dirt on my shoes, the weariness in my eyes. The Gestapo cares less about the contents of the bread than the flicker of fear behind the eyes. She steps out, her boots crunching on the gravel. She is carrying the proof of her nation's quiet defiance, and she knows that if she is caught, the interrogation will focus relentlessly on her contacts and the names she saved. I am not a hero. I am a machine, and my gears must not show the slightest hint of humanity. The street is a landscape of ghosts. Ash dusts the remains of what were once elegant pre-war facades. Every window is either shattered or bricked up, leaving the city with a perpetual, silent stare. Helena walks with the careful pace of a woman who carries nothing valuable, but is intensely aware of the ground beneath her feet. She is the courier now. Her body is the container, and her quiet composure is the security system. Her enemy is not a sniper's bullet, but the meticulous, numbing boredom of the German occupation. The guards are not fueled by rage, but by protocol. They are administrative soldiers, and they kill not out of hatred, but by checking a box marked inconsistent. She focuses on the smell of the basket she carries, the faint, cloying scent of slightly spoiled apples and the stale black bread. This scent is her defense. It is the scent of poverty and resignation, the exact opposite of the strong chemicals and fresh ink that betray the forger's hideout. I am a hungry woman carrying old food, she repeats to herself. Nothing more, nothing less. She passes a man in a threadbare coat leaning against a wall. He is Polish, watching her. He knows, or he suspects. He does not flinch. To acknowledge her would be to condemn her. This city is built on shared silence. She hears it before she sees it, the sharp, clipped rhythm of military boots on cobblestones. Not the shuffle of patrol, but the stand-still authority of the checkpoint. She turns the corner. The checkpoint is set up beneath the shattered awning of a former butcher shop. Two soldiers stand beside a makeshift desk made of stacked crates. Their uniforms are clean, their faces young and blank. They look cold, tired, and deeply bored. This is the place where paperwork becomes a matter of life or death. The line is short. A few nervous-looking Polish workers carrying meager bundles. They are checked quickly, their Kennkarten slapped against the table, and dismissed. Helena moves forward. She feels the tension in her throat, a physical clench that threatens to betray her. She must control it. If she looks afraid, they will assume she is hiding rationed goods, or worse, political leaflets. If she looks too calm, they will assume she is a spy. She must achieve perfection in mediocrity. The guard is tall, perhaps 19, with a face too pale for a soldier. His eyes slide over her coat, her plain scarf, and finally settle on the basket. He snaps a word in German. Papiere, papers. Helena places her own civilian identity card, one of her own older forgeries, on the desk. It is already aged and slightly dirtied, looking exactly like the worn armor it is. The guard glances at the card, comparing the photograph of Helena to the reality before him. He runs his thumb across the seal. She holds her breath. An imperfection in the etching, a mistake in the weight of the ink, and the scrutiny will deepen instantly. The stamp holds. He slides it back. Zweck? Purpose? She answers, her voice flat, rough with manufactured fatigue, listing a false destination a few blocks away. The guard's attention drifts. He is uninterested in her. He is interested in the end of his shift, the warmth of the barracks, the hope of a letter from home. His gaze falls to her basket. It is an act of simple curiosity, a break in the monotony. He lifts the loaf of stale bread. The true test of the perfect lie is not its technical execution, but its ability to survive human exhaustion. The guard did not care about the paperwork. He cared about the weight of the bread. Helena feels the blood drain from her face. Beneath the thick, hard crust of that loaf, nestled in the hollowed-out center, lie the 22 forged documents. They are the new identities for 22 people, and the physical evidence that could lead to her capture, interrogation, and the collapse of the Żegota cell. If he squeezes, if he pokes, the illusion is over. The guard turns the loaf over in his hand. He taps the side, testing its density. He is looking for smuggled meat, black market butter, anything worth confiscating for himself or reporting. The hard, precise edges of the paper documents inside, the Kennkarten, must feel like something other than bread. They must feel like the hidden wall of the cavity. The terror is silent. It is the agonizing wait for the physical evidence to betray the perfect illusion. The sensory dissonance. The hard paper beneath the soft crust. The guard notices the 2 bruised apples on top. He looks at their poor quality, then back at the exhausted woman. No milk, no sugar. Only this? Helena sees a flash of something in his eyes. Not cruelty, but the same pity, perhaps, he might offer to a starving dog. It is an involuntary acknowledgement of her sheer wretchedness. He shoves the bread back into the basket, but his hand brushes against the edge of the loaf again. He pauses for one final, heart-stopping second. Helena holds his gaze. She projects utter emptiness. No fear, no defiance. Just the bleak, weary resignation of a woman who has lost everything and has nothing left to hide. This is the shame of her dignity, the perfect performance of defeat.
The guard sighs, annoyed by her pathetic lack of anything worth stealing or reporting. Go. She takes her basket. Her hands shake only when they close around the handle. She does not meet his eye again. She walks away, not quickly, but with the same slow, deliberate pace that brought her here. She does not run. She does not turn back. She does not allow herself to breathe until she is 3 blocks past the point of no return. She had survived, not because of a gun, nor because of courage, but because her perfect forgery was protected by the sensory camouflage of stale bread and the deep, profound indifference of the enemy. The documents were safe. The lives they represented now had a fragile chance. Helena stops beneath a shattered brick wall. The air is cold. She leans against the wall, eyes closed. The lie held. The shame was a shield. The indifference was my uniform. But I cannot do this again. I cannot trust that luck to hold against the weight of a loaf of bread. She opens her eyes. The terror now shifts. It is no longer about the guard she just faced. It is about the 22 people who will carry her perfect lies. If they flinch at the sight of a stamp, or if they smile too wide with relief, they are dead. The weight of their survival is now entirely hers. The walk back to the rendezvous point feels heavier than the walk here. The rain-slicked alley swallows Helena whole. She walks away from the Gestapo checkpoint, her pace measured, her hand steady. The hidden documents are safe. The 22 lives they represent have earned a desperate chance at tomorrow. But survival carries a cost heavier than any physical threat. The tension that was once external, the sharp glance of a young guard, the pressure of his hand on a loaf of bread, now turns inward, cold and immediate. The forger's victory is always psychological. She had survived the guard with 2 weapons, perfect forgery and the mundane smell of stale bread. But survival brings its own kind of trauma. The price of the perfect lie is the constant, crushing burden of shame. She knows that the Jews she saves will walk with documents that are too clean, too straight, too perfect to be real, unless they carry the scars of life she meticulously recreated. The dirt, the scuff marks, the slight tear in the corner. She stops in a dark archway, pulling out a small, thick pad of paper. It is her other secret, a diary. A place to store the truth that her body is not allowed to express. The true conflict for the forger is not physical, it is moral. It is the shame of creating life through deceit, of winning freedom not with bullets, but with black market ink, and the quiet, administrative efficiency of the Reich itself.
They asked me why I never married. I told them I was waiting for a man who smelled of clean paper and patience. Now I know the truth. I am married to the smell of acid and fear, and the knowledge of when a lie must look dirtier than the truth. She remembers the feel of the German guard's hand on the loaf of bread, the sheer weight of his boredom. He didn't see her as a spy. He saw her as a pathetic, hungry woman. That pity was her most effective disguise. The core psychological conflict for the women of the underground was the necessity of betrayal. They did not betray their country, but they betrayed the core values of honesty, transparency, and submission that the occupation and society demanded of them. For Helena, every success means plunging another innocent into the deep, cold water of deception. She sits on a shattered crate, taking out one of the rejected, forged documents, a false work permit. The work of Żegota was deeply personal. Heroes like Izabela Bieżuńska, who passed under the alias Janina Truszczyńska or Tadeusz Sarnecki, understood that they were not just forging documents. They were forging entire, plausible human lives. And these lives had to fit the bureaucratic imagination of the Gestapo. The priest's signature must look real, but the stamp must look more real than the signature. The signature is just faith. The stamp is the state. The Reich believes in the stamp. It believes in order. It believes in the line that is perfectly straight. She runs her finger over the edge of a new, crisp identity card she must deliver tomorrow. It is flawless, the photo perfectly set, the ink still smelling faintly of her specialized fixative. This is the sensory dissonance that breaks the soul. The forger deals in microscopic details that decide macroscopic consequences. The weight of the paper, the texture of the cardboard, the precise color of the ink. Any variation could cost a life. The ink must be dull. New ink is a luxury the Reich does not afford its clerks. It is too bright. It is too hopeful. I must remove the hope from the ink itself. She takes a tiny glass rod and dips it into a solution of faded sepia and soot. She brushes it over the official-looking stamp, instantly dulling its authority, making it look authentically used. Helena is haunted by the knowledge that her actions are designed to subvert the rigid, predictable order that she herself was trained to uphold. She must be the perfect German functionary, precise, detail-oriented, and utterly anonymous, in order to destroy the system that created her. I am two people, the archivist who loves order and the liar who loves life. When I look in the glass, the two faces are one, and the one face is afraid. The fear is not just for her life, it is the fear of torture. She knows the grim statistics of the Gestapo. If caught, the interrogation will focus relentlessly on her contacts, the names she wrote, the people she saved. In the underground, the risk of carrying paper was often considered greater than carrying a gun. A gun suggests spontaneous resistance, but a perfectly forged document, complete with stamps and official seals, proves a sophisticated, organized, and deeply treasonous network. She writes in her diary, pressing the pencil hard against the paper. They say if they torture you, you will break. But they cannot break the lie if I forget what the truth ever looked like. I must forget the names. I must forget the faces. I must forget the hope I saw in the eyes of the mother, whose child will now live as Janina Truszczynska. This is the final defense of the forger, self-erasure. She must strip away her own identity, her compassion, and her memory, leaving only the neutral shell of the archivist, ready to withstand the pressure until the war ends. She closes the diary. Her work is not about hatred or revenge. It is about bureaucracy and precision. Weapons she handles with cold, technical mastery. She rises, checking her worn coat one final time. She carries the weight of 22 potential funerals and the perfect lie that might cancel every one of them. The final delivery point was a quiet, shattered tenement building near the former ghetto wall. The exchange was quick, a frantic, silent transfer in a cold, echoing hallway. Helena watches the courier, a slight, nervous young man, receive the basket. He does not count the documents. He only checks the small, crucial cavity in the loaf of black bread. Beneath the thick, hard crust, he finds the identity cards, the forged lives. His relief is a sharp, brief intake of breath. He nods once, a curt gesture of thanks that speaks volumes of the network's reliance on anonymity and efficiency. He disappears instantly down a flight of cracked stairs, carrying the weight of 22 new, fragile human beings. Helena stands alone. The terror of the Gestapo checkpoint is gone. The physical danger has passed, but the spiritual danger remains, a cold, hard knot in her stomach. She is the architect of a temporary world, The paper she created, the perfect lie, is now the only thing protecting those souls from the reality of the German machine. She walks back toward the central sector, moving with the heavy, measured resignation of a woman who has just paid a terrible price for a fragile commodity. The victory of the forger is never loud. It is not marked by explosions, but by the quiet click of a bureaucratic stamp. It is won with a superior understanding of order, by knowing the enemy's rules better than the enemy knew themselves. The Reich was defeated by its own obsession with files, lists, and the belief that authority lay in a carefully etched symbol. Helena broke that system with salvaged metal, thin ink, and a household sewing machine, used to mimic the tiny perforations on official stamps. Her memory returns to the small, cold cellar, the only place where she could truly be herself. The archivist who loved order, forced to become the liar who loved life. The entire war machine depended on one question: where is your paper? And I answered that question with a lie so flawlessly constructed that the machine accepted it. But the victory is cold. She remembers the words of Adolfo Kaminsky, the French forger. "If I slept for 1 hour, 30 people would die." That arithmetic remains. The weight of lives saved is equal to the weight of sleep sacrificed, the weight of truth surrendered. She had spent months preparing for capture and torture, the almost certain fate of any Żegota member caught with evidence of the document factory. Her ultimate defense was a blank slate, to destroy her own memory, forgetting every name, every address, every detail that could compromise the network. The trauma was not the torture she feared, but the self-betrayal required to withstand it. She stripped away her own identity, her compassion, and her memory, leaving only the neutral shell of the archivist, ready to withstand the pressure until the war ends. She stops near a small, frozen stand selling rotten potatoes. The women here are gaunt, their eyes sharp with genuine hunger. They clutch thin ration cards, desperate for the single legal truth they entitle them to. Helena reaches into her coat pocket. She finds a small, smooth piece of real soap, a luxury bought on the black market with funds smuggled in for Żegota. She had saved it, just in case. She stares at the soap. It is clean, white, fragrant, a symbol of the dignity she has fought to restore to others. But in her hands, it feels like a painful reminder of her own lost self. My life is a ledger of forged names. My hands smell of acid and fear. I survived by becoming a lie. They survived by believing my lie. She places the soap back into her pocket. She realizes that her dignity is no longer tied to her name, but to the anonymous, silent sacrifice of precision. The German secretary Anna, writing in her own diary, captured this sentiment. To be treated with dignity by those we were told were beasts. It is harder than hatred. Helena felt the same cruel paradox. The dignity offered by the enemy guard, the pity in his eyes that saved her from scrutiny, was more unbearable than 1,000 insults. The war finally ends months later. Church bells ring across a shattered Europe, but for Helena, the sound is muted. She is a survivor in a city of ghosts, her truth wrapped up in the endless, anonymous records she once specialized in. Years later, she still sits in an office in rebuilt Poland, surrounded by paper, working as a legitimate archivist. The forgers of Żegota, like their comrades in the Polish resistance, rarely received the open recognition given to Allied heroes. Their story was one of quiet, administrative valor. Helena is looking at an old photograph, a picture of a little boy from a rescued family, a boy who grew up under the false identity she created. The picture is signed with his real name. The irony is profound. The women of the underground fought and won the quiet war with their intellect, their precision, and their courage. They defeated the most brutal regime in history, not with spectacular explosions, but by knowing the enemy's rules and lying better. The perfect lie had been the truth that saved lives, and the trauma of dignity, the necessary loss of her own identity, had paradoxically been the very thing that ensured the survival of her soul, and the souls of those she never met. They asked me once if I was ashamed of the lies I had made. I told them, when a piece of paper can kill a human being, then a perfect forgery is an act of God. The war had ended with silence. But the voices of the forgers would endure, whispering the ultimate truth, that in the war against bureaucracy, the pen, guided by courage, was indeed mightier than the sword.